Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 494. TowerGate 494. July the 17th, 2018, Tuesday. Well, I have to tell you folks, I am really pissed. I'm really pissed. In fact, let me go ahead and put out the profanity alert. I'll do my best not to unleash a bunch of curse words on you. I always try my best not to do that, but I'm pretty pissed. If I slip and let go of a few, I apologize. You have been warned. That disgusting display that took place yesterday in the press conference following the meeting with Trump and Putin was disturbing, disgusting, and infuriating. That was a setup. That was a plot. I absolutely guarantee you that every reporter in that room was told, if he calls on you, regardless of which one of you it is, here's the question, the very first question you are to ask. And the question, a question that would force Trump to stand right there and dress down Vladimir Putin in front of the whole world and embarrass him. Or Trump would have to be diplomatic, in which case they could use that against him to slam him, to make him look weak, and to continue this ridiculous narrative that he somehow has some sort of a plot going with Putin. It was a setup. They had this planned days and days in advance. They knew exactly what they were going to do with this press conference because they know that the president, regardless of who that president would have been, whether it would have been Obama or Bush or Reagan or anyone else, is not going to stand there in front of the whole world and dress down Putin about the so-called Russian collusion, meddling in the elections, and all this. It's just not the way those things are done. These types of matters are handled behind closed doors, very quietly within the intelligence community and the diplomats. We exchange spies with each other all the time. We know that we spy on each other. That's our jobs. Keeps everybody honest. And the very fact that this lying, pathetic media plays this narrative is just, it's reprehensible. They know that all governments have intelligence operations. They know that all major governments who have intelligence agencies, especially the United States, the Russians, the Brits, the French, you name it, they all have big fat budgets, big intelligence agencies, and they get involved everywhere, all the time. They always have operations going on. I promise you the Russians have operations going on right now in the U.S., and we have them going on in Russia and everywhere else on the planet for that matter. They know that, and they know that we don't discuss these types of issues in an open forum like that, especially when a meeting like that was designed to try to work out the differences we have, move the relationship forward on a positive track. It wasn't to stand there and dress each other down and get into a shouting match in front of the whole world over the types of issues that need to be discussed privately behind closed doors with the people that do that kind of thing. You don't do that kind of thing publicly. And the media knew it. They put Trump in a horrible position. He was already in a bad position because of them and because of the previous administrations, because of the rotten Reverend Clinton, because of all this other stuff and this coup plot that they created, and Uncle Bob the Executioner and his Hillary donor posse and the entire scam that they're running. And they're using every bit of it. And they know it's all a lie. Keep that in mind, folks. These media jackals know it's all a lie. They know what the truth is. What did they expect Trump to do? Stand there in front of all these people, the whole world watching, and go, okay, Vladimir, I believe my spy agencies, they told me you were meddling in the elections and spying on us during the elections and this and that and the other thing. At which point Putin's going to look around and say, no, I vehemently deny that. We weren't doing anything like that. Where's the evidence? And what, Trump says to come back and say, you liar, you're lying. We all know you did it. In which case Putin's going to go, well, no, I'm not. You prove it. Trump's like, we will prove it. You're a liar. But what are they supposed to do? Get in a shouting match right there in front of the whole freaking world? Putin says they didn't do it. Trump has been on record over dozens of times coming out and saying, yeah, I've been told by the intelligence agencies that the Russians were meddling in our elections. Exactly what they did and all that, I don't know. That's the intelligence agencies are looking into that. We got Uncle Bob the Executioner. We got all these other investigations going. The Senate had their own committee looking into it. The House had their own committee looking into it. They're putting out the reports. They're telling us what happened. We're learning about all these things. That's what's going on. And Trump's essentially admitted, yeah, we believe the Russians meddle in our business, and we meddle in theirs. These are simple facts that the media knows. That entire press conference and the whole thing and the way that was done, they had this planned days and days in advance. Because they knew Putin and Trump were going to walk out there, and the very first thing they were going to say is, hey, did you hit Putin over meddling in the election? No, did you really get him? No, you can't. You actually got to sit here. We want to watch you sit here and dress him down in front of millions of people and embarrass him on the world stage. Yeah, that'll do wonders for the relationship, won't it? You stand there and embarrass the man in front of a billion people? What's that going to do? What do you think? Putin's going to sit there and just admit it, even if he did it? And of course they engage in intelligence operations inside the U.S. We've been doing it for fucking years. Did you guys see my video from about a year ago? I did a video where I laid out 72, I said again, 72 operations by the Central Intelligence Agency where we have overthrown 72 governments since 1950. Including that little gem in 1953 when we took out Mr. Mossadegh in Iran, which led then to the Iranian Revolution, the capture of 70 some odd hostages for 444 days, did a number on Jimmy Carter's presidency. Just ask him. And how about that little affair down there in the Bay of Pigs that nearly ruined John F. Kennedy's presidency before it ever got started? He fired the CIA director, didn't he? And the number 2 man. And let's not forget about that little event that took place in Russia back during the late 50s, early 60s, when we had our U-2 spy pilot shot down over the Soviet Union. We were flying spy missions with U-2 spy planes, and they shot one of them down. They got the pilot, they got the plane, and they got the camera, but they didn't tell us that. They just said, hey, the United States is spying on us, and we can prove it. And of course, the U.S. government, President Eisenhower, everybody came out and said, the Russians are lying. We're not spying on them. And then they said, yeah, we know you had planes flying over and spying on us all the time. And they said, well, we don't have no planes. Those are weather planes. And then they actually painted up a damn plane down at a hangar down in Florida, invited the media down here and said, see, this is what the Russians are talking about. As you can clearly see, it's a NASA plane. It's got NASA markings. It's just flying around taking measurements of barometric pressure and this and that and studying the weather. That's what it really is. It's not a spy plane. We're not spying on the Russians. And then, after about a week of us vehemently denying all of that, the Russians came out and said, hey, guess what? We got your plane. Look up on the board. See the picture? They put it up at the UN. They put the pictures up on the big screen. See, there's your plane, the wreckage of your plane. Oh, and here's that real expensive high-tech camera that you were spying on us with. Oh, and by the way, we got your pilot. And how about that little affair in Dealey Plaza? You know, Mr. Potato Head, by the way, John Brennan comes out. Oh, yeah, they're going to get John Brennan's opinion, of course. John Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, the guy who was running the CIA at the time when all this shit was going down, right? And he says, oh, this is treason. This is treason. Mr. Brennan, you should know that the definition of treason, in order to even apply the standard of treason, that takes place when you are engaged in a war, in a state of war. When you are in a state of war, you can have treason. Read the definition. If you are not in a state of war, you really technically cannot have treason. Treason is identified as something that takes place during a war. We're not in a war, Mr. Potato Head, but you would like us to be in one with the Russians, wouldn't you, Mr. Potato Head, former director of the CIA, the man who was in charge when all this shit was going down? When all this so-called Russian meddling and all this kind of stuff was going on, it was you, Mr. Potato Head, who was in charge. And your buddies back from the 1960s, that little affair down in Dealey Plaza, we know about your involvement and a lot of other things. Let's not forget that the things that went down on 9/11. 9/11. We still don't know the truth about that, Mr. Potato Head. Here we have 3 freaking buildings knocked down by 2 planes, falling at the speed of gravity, just as if they were filled with paper mache. 10 seconds. 1,000-foot buildings fall down. Just as if they were stuffed with nothing more than paper mache. when in fact they're stuffed with hundreds of thousands of tons of concrete and steel. Yet 2 airplanes take down 3 buildings and they come down at free fall speed, as if there's nothing inside those buildings but air. We have planes flying around for 45 minutes, never once intercepted by a fighter jet. We have planes flying at more than 100 knots above VMO. That's the VMO is essentially a measurement of how fast the plane can go before it becomes uncontrollable. They were flying at speeds 100 knots above that. We have pilots, for instance, the guy who flew the most difficult of those missions, Hani Hanjour, flying that flight that went into the Pentagon. Dude's flying at over 100 knots above VMO. He makes a complete 360-degree circle. Then he makes a 180-degree corkscrew diving turn, pulling 6, 7, 8 Gs, levels off with the ground, flying at over 100 knots, flies into the Pentagon. Really? Mr. Potato Head? And a lot more. We still haven't got the truth about that little event, have we? Oh, and the CIA? Oh, we should trust the intelligence agencies. Oh, yeah, we got to trust those guys. They would never lie to us. They would never lie to Trump, would they? Oh, you think the intelligence agencies would lie to President Trump? You think they would lie to us? You think they would lie to the world? Oh, they wouldn't do that. Hey, what about those weapons of mass destruction? Weren't there supposed to be weapons of mass destruction? According to the CIA, there were, because they got it straight from Screwball. And who was Screwball? Oh, he was the informant that the Brits told us that they said, hey, you know, if you're getting this information from this guy here, our code name for him is Curveball or Screwball or whatever. Don't believe a word that guy says. We paid him for years, and everything he says is a lie. None of it turns out to be true. And, of course, Bush wouldn't tell him. Bush wouldn't tell Tony Blair. We only found out 2 or 3 years later, after all the war in Iraq went down, when old Curveball came out and gave an interview. Said, yeah, they were paying me all kinds of money. I was telling them I was feeding them nothing but pure bullshit. And they said, we don't care. Just keep it coming. We just need a reason to have a war. Thanks to the Central Intelligence Agency and our intelligence apparatus, which has got like a $500 billion a year budget or something, did they get anything right? They couldn't even execute the fucking Q correctly. Fortunately for us. Mr. Potato Head. He's the guy that's in charge when all this stuff is going down. Yet he's pointing the finger at Trump. The DNC is being hacked, the RNC is they're trying to attack the RNC, they're attacking this, attacking that, they're doing all this stuff, and what the hell's Mr. Potato Head doing? He's planting freaking confidential informants inside the Trump campaign to frame up members of Trump's campaign. While the Russians are hacking into everything in the damn planet. Along with their friends at the FBI and the NSA and the entire intelligence apparatus. They're busy setting up Trump while the Russians are hacking everything. And then they want to turn around after the election and where we are now and blame Trump when they were the ones who were in charge. Obama told us, oh, you can't hack the elections. That's stupid. Trump needs to go out and just get some votes. This is silly, thinking that they could hack the elections. Oh, I told Putin, knock it off. These people are sickening. Absolutely sickening. That whole press conference was a setup. They knew that press conference was coming a week ago, and they knew exactly what they were going to do, because they knew that Trump wasn't going to stand there like no more than you or I or any of them. None of them would have done that. None of them would have stood there and said, well, you know, my intelligence people tell me that the Russians were, you know, messing in our elections or messing around and hacking in or involving themselves. And of course they are. They've been doing it since day one after World War II ended. And they'll continue to do it, as all countries do. Hey, I'm sure you're all pretty well aware, if you aren't, you will be now, that when Boris Yeltsin, when he first came to power after the collapse of the Soviet Union, his campaign was run out of Bill Clinton's Oval Office. Just ask Dick Morris. He's the guy who was running it. Boris Yeltsin's campaign was run by Dick Morris out of Clinton's Oval Office. Barack Obama and all his friends were meddling in the Israeli elections, trying to knock out Benjamin Netanyahu. Did you see the news media or Mr. Potato Head or any of these other fucknuts going off the edge? When that was going on, they didn't have a problem with that. They had no problem when Obama was messing in them elections. They have no problem with the 72 governments we've overthrown since 1952. They have no problem with spying on the damn Russians, getting spy planes shot down. They have no problem with them lying about the events of 9/11, lying about fucking weapons of mass destruction, lying about this, lying about that, lying constantly. No problem with any of that. But they got a problem with Donald Trump not standing next to Vladimir Putin in front of the whole world when they're having a public conference like that and a public hearing like that. And they expect Trump to what? Stand there and get to a what? Argument with Putin? You did it. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. No, I didn't. No, you did. What? What the fuck's that going to do? It's disturbing. It's disturbing. We should bring back public caning. They have public caning in Singapore. Public caning. You step them up there in front of a public square, you pull their pants down, you smack them across the ass with a bamboo stick. They got welts on their ass. We need to line up every single member of the media, every single one of them, and publicly flog them. Publicly flog them. They should resign. They're an embarrassment, and they're dangerous. We have a First Amendment and a press for a reason. They're supposed to be the watchdogs of government. They've become the propaganda wing of the government. What were they trying to prove? What do they want? World War III? What, they want Trump and Putin to stand there and get into a fist fight? Or they want them to maybe issue both of them a 45 and let them go outside and take 20 paces and turn and fire? Would that make them happy? How about a fight to the death? Hey, why not? I mean, what the hell do they want? What, to prove that the Russians are conducting intelligence operations inside the United States? At the same time, every damn one of them know about the little affair that went on in Ukraine, how they got rid of Mr. Yanukovych. I mean, the crap that went on in Benghazi, the stuff they tried to do in Egypt, the Green Revolutions, the Soros-backed radicals. They're not just, knocking down governments and creating chaos all over Europe. They're working here too. And a lot of that money is coming from the Clinton Foundation. The swamp is deep and it is fucking ugly. I hate these fucking people. Now, who's the first people that they go to when they want to comment? Who else? Why not? Let's go to John McCain. Oh, let's go to Senator Songbird Magoo. Oh, and there's Senator Songbird Magoo. He's his brain's too messed up to be able to cast a vote, but he sure doesn't miss a chance to rip Trump every chance he gets. He's like, oh, Trump, oh, that was horrible. That was horrible. Trump, blah, 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 blah. What do you think Senator Songbird McCain would have done in those situations? Well, I think he probably would have put his hand over his chest and looked over at the Russian flag and started spouting Russian propaganda. Pretty much the same thing he did back in Nam. Songbird McCain, he would have probably started singing the Russian national anthem. Oh, you got to ask Bob Corker. Everybody cares what Bob Corker thinks. Yeah, well, Trump's a real embarrassment. I mean, I think he had a chance to really do something with Putin. Yeah, but Bob Corker wouldn't have done a damn thing. He'd have done the exact same thing, just like every one of these people would have done. They would have said, yeah, my intelligence agency has given us that information. I've expressed that to Putin. I've said, yeah, my intelligence people tell me you were messing in the election, and he flat-lied, and Putin denies it. He denies it, but I've let him know that this is what my intelligence people told me. I believe my intelligence people, but, Mr. Putin's got his position, and that's it. And then we went on and we talked about this and this and this and this. But they only wanted to focus on one thing. They want to talk about nuclear non-proliferation. They want to talk about trying to work out the situations in Syria. They want to try to work out all these other things, working together to get rid of Al-Qaeda, which Trump's just about done. They're not worried about any of these things. All they want to see, or all they want to know, is they want to see Trump stand there in front of millions of people, billions of people, as a matter of fact, and embarrass a president of a foreign country in front of 1 billion people, thinking that's somehow going to do some good. Knowing good and well it would be disastrous. Trump could have called in and ordered Hellfire missiles to destroy Putin's home in Russia, but before the thing went down, and upon finding out about that, the entire media would have said, oh, you only got his home there in Russia? What, you didn't get his home over there in the Black Sea? Nothing. There's nothing Trump would have done. That was a setup. They knew. They knew a week ago what they were going to do at that press conference. I knew exactly what they were going to do. And now they're going to ride that wave as far as they can. It's disturbing. It's disgusting. It's sickening. Absolutely disgusting. Man, these people. Yeah, and we of course they got to talk to Candy Pants Lindsey Graham. Yeah, who's the three people they're going to go get their opinions from right after this thing? They're going to go to Lindsey Candy Pants Graham, Senator Songbird McCain, Magoo, and they're going to go to Bob Corker. Three hardcore anti-Trumpers. That's who they're going to go to. All of them pussies. Not a single one of them would have said a word to Putin other than what Trump said. It was my people tell me you were spying on us. What was Lindsey Graham going to go over there and punch Putin in the nose? Putin, I think you're lying. Senator Magoo. These people make me sick. But I'll tell you what, my friends. I look at this as a golden opportunity. A golden opportunity. Because now that they've kicked up all this ruckus, and they're so concerned, and they really want to know everything that happened, we really got to get to the bottom of all this. If I was Trump, when I got back to the States, I would have a primetime presidential address, and I would address the American people, and I'd say, you know, it's become obvious over the last couple of days that the media, many members, particularly on the left, but some on the right too, still very, very heartbroken over what happened during the 2016 election. Still can't understand that they still, of course, are looking for collusion between my campaign and the Russians. Uncle Bob the Executioner is still working on that. He'll be working on that forever. He'll never find it, but that's okay. Because the fact is the media is right. The Democrats are right. Senator Magoo is right. Mr. Corker is right. Yes, they are all right. We really do need to find out what happened, don't we? And so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to appoint a presidential commission, a special presidential commission, to really look into this and find out exactly what was going on with all this activity within the intelligence agencies. How is it possible that law enforcement and the intelligence agencies were able to be hacked and just essentially defeated by the Russians? Why was the Russian intelligence able to be so effective against our intelligence and against our law enforcement, our FBI? And, I mean, we really need to understand what happened there, don't we? We really need to get to the bottom of it. Now, a lot of people say we need to get a hold of them servers. Yes, we should certainly get a hold of the DNC server, the DCCC server. We should get Podesta's laptop, as many as Hillary's devices as we can locate, and we should take a hard look at those. But it's not necessary, really, in order, as far as finding out who got the DNC files and gave them to WikiLeaks. It's not hard to do, because the NSA has that information. If, in fact, those files were transferred out of the DNC, outside of the building, if they were transferred from outside of the building, if someone from outside the building transferred those files out of the Democratic National Committee, the NSA has a record of it. They track every single and collect every single transfer that takes place, every single communication, and that is no different than a phone call. A file transfer of transferring files is no different than a telephone call, as far as the NSA is concerned. It is an electronic communication. If the NSA wants to, they can produce the transmission that was responsible for moving those files, transferring those files out of the DNC to someone. Don't even need to look at the server. All you have to do is go to the NSA and say, we need that transfer, that file transfer that took place, that transferred those files out of the DNC to wherever, from wherever they were transferred, sucked out of. So that's one thing right there. You don't even really need to get the server. If it was outside the DNC, the file transfer, if it took place outside the DNC, if someone from the outside getting those files, the NSA will have that. It's a simple file transfer. So if I was Trump, I would say I'm going to appoint a special presidential commission, and we're going to look into all this. We're going to get into these servers. We're going to find out exactly who transferred what files went where, and we are going to talk to Julian Assange. He says he's got evidence. We're going to give him the opportunity to produce that evidence. We have Kim.com. He says he's got some evidence too. We're going to take a look at that too. We're going to explore all the avenues where we understand that there's possible evidence. We are going to take a look at the intelligence community, and we are going to find out exactly what they were doing while the Russians were conducting all of this chaos. We're going to find out what they were doing in response to it. Now, the response to the Russians conducting operations here should have been conducted by a counterintelligence agency, such as the FBI counterintelligence, headed up by Peters Benstrokinas. We need to find out what Peters Benstrokinas was doing to combat the chaos being caused by the Russians. Now, we know he was a little bit busy planting spies in the Trump campaign, cooking up the dossier and rigging the Right Reverend Clinton email investigation. Yes, we know he was busy with all these things, but he still should have been trying to work on that problem of the Russians trying to sow chaos within the country during an election. So I'm going to appoint a special commission, and we're going to get to the bottom of all these things. We're going to look at what the intelligence agencies run by Mr. Potato Head, Mr. Clapper, and we're going to take a look at what was going on there with Mr. Comey and the FBI and Mr. Strzok, counterintelligence. We're going to dig into it and find out exactly what was going on. While Uncle Bob is busy looking for Russia-Trump collusion, we're going to find out what the hell else was going on in the 2016 election. So, I would appoint a special presidential commission which will be looking into that. We're going to talk to all the people who may have evidence, including Mr. Assange, including Kim.com, including any other witnesses that want to come forward who are afraid. We're going to get it, and we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. And that's exactly what I would do if I was Trump. He could use this as a wonderful gift that they've given him. They seem to be awfully concerned. They want to know everything that was going on and why it was all happening under the Obama administration, and Clapper and Brennan and Comey and Benstrokinas and all the rest. This stuff's all happening under their watch. Yet they want to blame Trump. Like I said, President Trump should come back from his trip. He should announce that he's appointing a special presidential commission to look into what really happened. And the focus will be to look at the intelligence agencies, to look at the FBI, to look at all these organizations in the Obama administration, including the State Department and the National Security Division, headed by Susan Rice, who was so busy unmasking Trump associates and Trump campaign people that she probably didn't have time to pay attention to all the chaos that the Russians were involved in. You see, that's the problem here. The Obama administration was so busy trying to frame Trump that they didn't have any time to actually pay attention to the activities that were going on by Russian intelligence people. So President Trump needs to use this opportunity because we know they're so passionate about wanting to know about everything that really happened. They really want to know, did Putin really do it? Is he lying? This and that and the other thing? Well, that's exactly what Trump should do. He should put together a special presidential commission to get to the bottom of it. And the focus should be looking at the intelligence agencies, the FBI, the State Department, the National Security Branch. Look at all of it. Because they were either asleep on the job or they were purposely looking the other way, or maybe participating in a plot. That's where the focus really should be. And now Trump has got the reason to appoint this special presidential commission, because the media has just given it to him, along with their friends, the Democrats, and some never-Trump Republicans. They've now given Trump a gift. They really want to get to the bottom of it? I'd say, okay, good. We will get to the bottom of it. It's exactly what I would do if it were me. That's exactly what I would do. And this is why I said about 2 weeks ago I was doing a video and I said, you know what? I don't think that, certainly the media is not trying to get it, but I don't, and of course, no shit, Sherlock Christopher Wray and Rodenstein and all these people, they all know exactly what these committees, Nunes Committee and Goodlatte's Committee and Gowdy's Committee and all these, they know what these committees are really trying to get to the bottom of, is exactly what was the FBI doing, what's their involvement with the informants in the Trump campaign, what's their involvement with the dossier, what's their involvement with the Trump Tower meeting, what's their involvement with all these informants. trying to make contact with Trump people. What is going on? They're trying to get to the bottom of that. But it's still kind of murky and kind of muddy because it's not being backed by the leadership, and they're not coming out and making it crystal clear. And that's another reason why Rodenstein and Wray are able to get away with not producing documents and witnesses. That's what they're hiding behind. And that's why I said about 2 weeks ago, and I know we're asking a lot of Paul Ryan, but the entire Republican leadership, and this is where you separate the wheat from the chaff, needs to come out, and especially Paul Ryan, he is the leader of the Republicans in the House. He needs to come out and forcefully say, make it very, very clear that these investigations that are going on are investigations into the conduct and the activities and the actions of the Obama administration during the 2016 election. It's a focus on the FBI, the intelligence community, the State Department, and the entire Obama administration. The National Security Division, the whole 9 yards. We are looking at them to find out what kind of activities they were involved in during the 2016 election. And we're not talking about Russian meddling. We're not talking about Trump collusion. We're talking about agencies of the government during the Obama administration that appear to have been targeting the Trump campaign and people associated with the Trump campaign in potential frame-up operations. They need to make it perfectly clear exactly what they're investigating, and it needs to be Paul Ryan, the lead Republicans, the whole 9 yards. They need to come out and make it very, very clear and have a press conference and say, let's make perfectly clear so you all understand exactly what this is all about. We're not just nibbling around the edges to try to find out more about what Russia may have been doing. We've had 2 committees, one in the House, one in the Senate. We got Uncle Bob, everybody looking into what the Russians were doing. Everybody trying to find out if there was Trump-Russia collusion. Very well done. Very well. Good. Do whatever you want. But what we really need is an investigation into these agencies, FBI, CIA, National Security, State Department, the whole 9 yards, as well as foreign intelligence. How about the British meddling in elections? Were the British meddling in any elections during 2016? Was it a lot of this intelligence being fed through British intelligence? How about their meddling? How about what they were doing in our elections? When you look at it, the people who had the most influence, or possibly could have had the most influence in meddling in the 2016 elections, would be the damn FBI and the CIA, along with their friends over across the pond in British intelligence. They were the ones who were probably meddling the most and may have had the most impact in the election. And that's where the focus needs to be, and it's high time that the Republicans, particularly has to be led by Paul Ryan, have to come out and make it perfectly clear that they are investigating the activities of the previous administration and what they were doing during the 2016 campaign to try to frame people within the Trump campaign. That's the real investigation that needs to be happening and needs to be talked about. And that display yesterday by the media was the most disturbing, disgusting, obnoxious thing I've seen a lot, man, from the media. They've gotten worse and worse and worse and worse over the years, but they really outdid themselves yesterday. That was absolutely horrible. Horrible, because of the implications. They were literally wanting Trump to stand there and dress down Putin in front of the whole world, not thinking about what the consequences of that would have been. Because they don't care. They really don't care. They really don't care. All they care about is their precious agenda of the left. Their precious leftist agenda. And their queen, the rotten Reverend Clinton, who was defeated. Because she was a rotten-ass candidate. Not because of anything to do with the Russians. Putin probably laughed. He probably think Trump didn't need any help. He was running against the rotten Reverend Clinton. My God. Pat Paulson. Where is he? Remember when Pat Paulson used to always run? Pat Paulson could have beat the rotten Reverend. Ernest T. Bass could have beat the rotten Reverend. Gomer Pyle could have beaten the rotten Reverend. My cat could have beaten the rotten Reverend. The whole thing's despicable. I'll be back tomorrow with more regular TowerGate news as soon as I simmer down. But I really hope when Trump gets back, he appoints a special presidential commission to take care of all those problems that the Democrats have with the issues of the 2016 election. You guys have a good night. See you. Bye.